Now we're going to talk a little bit about the water that we use to make our beer. Water is arguably the most important ingredient in beer. It makes the largest portion of the ingredients that we use. Beer is essentially 98% water. So it's very important that we have the water that we want to use, that it tastes the way we want. But the interesting thing is, we're kind of stuck with the water we have wherever we're making beer. Unlike the malt or the hops or the yeast that we grow up, we can get those ingredients from other places. They can be very consistent when we bring them into the process. The water, we have what's coming out the wall. So the first thing we do in every location is we charcoal filter the water to get rid of some impurities, aromas, flavors that we don't want in there, so we have nice, clean tasting water to start. So that's a very important first step. When you think about how water impacts the beer and the flavor in the beer, oftentimes it comes through, from a chemical perspective, how much of what kind of an environment it can make when mixed with the malt and the hops for the yeast to consume those sugars, right? Another thing that it can do is affect the mouthfeel. And so I'd have you think about the great brewing traditions in Germany with those wonderful lagers and their very malty beers and how they have a nice soft mouthfeel. Well, that comes from fairly soft water, not a lot of mineral content in that German water. If you conversely think about the British brewing traditions and those pale ales and the IPAs, and some of those beers have a strong mouthfeel, a lot of mineral flavors and content, that comes from the water. And the water is really shaped brewing across the world because the flavors of the water before we had all this treatment really determine the types of materials that they would use to come out with the finished product. So water is a huge piece of the ingredient load in our beers, makes a big difference, and you ought to really conserve water by drinking beer.